Good morning and welcome back to the lecture series on partition of India in print media and cinema. So, we are talking about the accounts of the survivor. Today, we will discuss Amrita Pritam's novel Pinjar. So, the movie adaptation of Amrita Pritam's Pinjar by Chandra Prakash Dwivedi deals with the protagonist Puru's plight as that of a woman with a fluid identity caught in the crossfire of communal frenzy, as Nonika Datta observes. So, once again it is a crossfire or a rivalry between two communities, but the sufferer is like we see in the novel Puru, the protagonist. And Nonika Datta notes that Puru eventually transcends her bitter experience of being kidnapped, converted to Islam and forcibly made to cohabit with her abductor, and she becomes emotionally attached to her abductor actually and overcomes her prejudice. She marries her abductor Rashid, acquires the new Muslim name Hamida, and yet maintains her fluid identity. So, she is a case of the liminal positioning of the woman who belongs neither here nor there. So, she is neither the one nor the other. And so, in Urvashi Butalia's other side of silence, we see Kamalaben Patel recounting that there were innumerable women raped and abducted on both sides of you know, both sides of the border, and women were actually subjected to specific kinds of brutalities, animosities, such as they were paraded naked, and in some cases their breasts were cut off, and actually recollects that tattoo with marks of other religion were made on the bodies of women with the idea of defiling the purity of their entire community, and tattoos were made with with slogans of a specific community on the body of the rival community's woman. So, and children born of illegitimate or forceful relations were forcibly taken away from these women afterwards. So, it is in the context of this parallel history, this parallel experience by women at the time of partition, that we place and that we place this novel Pinjar in. So, we furnish this information in our understanding of Pritam's novel Pinjar. It is about a young girl Puru who is about to get married to Ramchand, and days before her marriage she gets abducted by Rashid, who is a Muslim man, and there is an old family dispute, and so as a way of getting back, as a way of taking revenge, Rashid kidnaps Puru, marries her and changes her name to Hamida. So, after Puru somehow manages to escape from her abductor and go back to her family, her family members refuse to accept her back. So, through Puru's life, Pritam is showing the readers, Pritam is trying to write about or describe the experiences, the lives of several other women who were victimized by the bifurcation of the subcontinent. So, we see that these abducted women are supposed to play the role of the powerless victim. I mean, these abducted women, these victims are supposed to play the passive role, the role of the powerless victim, which Chandra Talpare Mohanty points out is a position that many a times the third world woman is expected to play. It is a kind of ideal stereotype that the third world woman is expected to subscribe to and reenact. So, Lajo's character is an example of the stereotype, where she depends on her family and Puru actually salvages her. So, Lajo is the woman that Puru's brother is going to marry. Laju is Puru's sister-in-law, and so we see two kinds of characterizations, two kinds of possibilities in both these women. While Laju is dependent for her protection and for her happiness on Puru and the rest of the family, Puru defies this kind of a traditionalist experience, and she owns her own life choices, and in fact takes charge of not only her own life, but she goes on to protect and rescue the victimized Laju. So, Amrita Pritam shows how Puru, who later on becomes Hamida, defies the patriarchal stereotype, and she actually transcends the boundaries. It would not be wrong to say, although it is a detour from the current discussion, a figure like Puru in Pinjar or Tobatik Singh in Manto's short story, they actually are representative of counter territoriality. They actually are representative of the hyper real position of the grey zone, which cannot be reconciled with any real and pre-existing category. So, Puru effectively uses her agency to critique the reality of partition by choosing to stay on in Pakistan with her abductor. So, the issue of abduction is central to Amrita Pritam's concern, but she is dealing with this issue with a difference. See, she situates it within the framework of Hindu identity. She situates it within the framework of Hindu identity and patriarchal anxiety. So, it is not only, as Pritam sees it, it is not only the Muslim violator, but also the question of the conservative ideals in a Hindu family that does not want to own a violated female kin. So, Puru's is a liminal position in the face of hardening religious and national boundaries. She is an example. She embodies the liminality or the lack of territory, the question of etching, engraving territory through and on women's body is something that Puru resists through her agency. So, she resists such definitive belonging being imposed on her through her agency. Yet, so she emerges as an active agent in shaping her destiny, and Pritam shows that the abducted and raped woman is not merely a victim, but can alternatively become a source of powerful energy, and she can actually be in charge of shaping or of fashioning a new identity. So, thereby using her situation, her initially victimized position to her strength rather than as her weakness. So, Naunika Datta actually notes how Amrita Pritam's life story subscribes to the fact that the writer herself never identified with a monolithic religion or a specific experience of women. For Pritam, experiences of women were ramified, fragmented, and so Pritam's experience, as Naunika Datta writes, Pritam's experience of partition impels her to invoke a shared culture of cultural symbols and languages, and to transgress and ultimately transcend the languages of religious and communal mobilization. So, we see that it is not only a narrative of a Hindu violated woman versus a Muslim violator or abductor. Subnarrative or this subplot of abduction can be placed within a larger plot of class rivalry, where the Muslims were traditionally shown as generationally shown as poorer and hence exploited, whereas the Hindus are the landlords and much more affluent, and so there is the question of economic and economic socio-cultural discrepancies that informs the decision of abduction by or the act of abduction by Rashid. Urvashi Butalia talks about the forced process of marriage, conversion and followed by that rehabilitation. She says no matter what the women said, how much they protested, no matter what the nature of the relationship or their current status was, I mean the women had no choice in their matter of either the question of marriage, conversion or repatriation. It was a part, all these decisions were part of a larger patriarchal order. So, the movie portrays the abduction of several women during the partition, and Puru herself is a victim initially, and her abduction, like I said, is born out of a familial enmity, and this becomes her point of difference from Lajo, who is a partition abduction victim. So, both the women are abducted, however, Puru is abducted due to some familial enmity before the partition, whereas her sister-in-law, her would-be sister-in-law is a partition abduction victim. Lajo is accepted back in the family, but Puru does not want to go back. So, her parents' refusal to accept her after the abduction suggests ways in which religiously informed identities actually hardened the barriers over the issues of women's honor and purity. So, Puru's resistance to return to her natal family makes a larger point about the attempts made by these women to secure a sense of belonging, a citizenship, and thereby acting as autonomous identities outside of religious communities and the nation state. So, while reflecting on her abduction, as Pritam notes, a sense of resentment surged in Hamida's mind. This is from the book itself. Pritam writes, a sense of resentment surged in Hamida's mind. When it happened to her, religion had become an insurmountable obstacle. Neither her parents nor her in-laws to be had been willing. Neither her parents nor her in-laws to be had been willing to accept her, and now the same religion had become so accommodating. So, this is in reference to the family of Puru coming afterwards and expressing their wish to take her back, but she resents. So, the abduction and rape of the woman led them towards a hatred for their own bodies and a sense of defilement. So, the film ends with Puru's statement that whether a woman is a Hindu girl or a Muslim, whosoever reaches her destination carries along my soul too. So, she would survive in all those women that are taken back by their natal family, but she herself had made an individual decision that she would not actually go back and marry Ramchand or in fact espouse her Hindu Punjabi identity. So, the work attempts to harmonize the communal differences instead of aggravating them. Pritam not only refers to the partition violence, but gives an intricate insight of the rural life, the way the existence of the people in villages before, during and after the partition, before and during the partition, and how the daily lives of these micro societies change, transform in the process of the partition. So, communal troubles and women's abductions, conversions would exist even before. With partition, what happened is that the scale of violence actually was heightened. It became the scale or the statistics became I mean it actually inflated into an unthinkable figure, something that the larger masses, the masses were not prepared for. So, abductions and rapes were actually they would occur in a hushed manner, in a silent manner, like Rashid takes away Puru, for example, which goes on to debunk the attitude towards the general attitude of a society towards abduction and rape. So, the entire issue is kept hidden both by Puru's natal family and Rashid's kin, fearing that it might flare up a communal violence or communal communal disharmony. So, partition became a reason where partition was taken as a kind of pretext where women would be openly violated without any fear whatsoever. So, there was no more reason to carry out heinous acts. So, women became it was the act of rape which had or abduction which had traditionally remained a topic not discussed had become normalized. This kind of atrocity was normalized at the time of partition. So, Pinjar makes an allusion to Ramayana. It can be seen as loosely based on or it can be Pinjar can be looked at as loosely speaking to or referring to Ramayana, where Puru is the modern Sita. She is like Sita, she is abducted and she waits for her Ram, and her fiance's name is actually Ramchand. So, the name, it seems, is given intentionally to the character as a way of alluding to the epic Ramayana. So, we see that there is the origin of Pinjar's plot makes a kind of draws on Ramayana, but then it is a departure from the epic. So, during the movie at one point Puru confirms that she is Ramchand's Janaki, and that was the man she was originally supposed to get married to. So, and Ramchand does not get married, and his single status is actually understood in the novel and in the film as his vanvas or his exile. So, the fiance, Puru's fiance, remains in a forever exile from which he never returns. He chooses never to get married. So, Pritam presents an alternative end as a way of maybe it's a way of subverting the ideals or questioning the ideals that that Ramayana poses or that Ramayana upholds. So, we see that Puru chooses to she denies, she refuses to return to Ramchand and chooses to live with Rashid. In the end, her sister-in-law Lajo goes back to her brother Triloki, but Puru decides to stay back with her abductor, and she becomes an active agent in doing so. She becomes another, she in a way rewrites the story of Ramayana and partakes in authoring an event in her palimpsestic existence. So, a palimpsest is a piece of paper or a piece that has been written and rewritten over. So, every time there is an overlap of writing, the the former history or the former writing is erased. So, she becomes a site, her memory becomes a palimpsestic site where she is a concentrate of different cultures, different spaces, different identities, and in fact two names, Puru and Hamida. She is a fragmented existence. She prevents the same fate for Lajo. So, she ensures that Lajo goes back, but and it is an irony that an oral Ramayana or Indian epics have, primary epics have the oral tradition where there can be, where there are no authorial license, there can be multiple authors simultaneously writing their own versions, and here we have a female writer adding her own position and maybe her own burden of meaning to the pre-existing paradigm of Ramayana. So, she is adding another dimension. Ramayana would carry an extra weight of meaning, an alternative meaning, alternative or changed ideals, changed values through her different spatio-temporal belonging. Ramayana would be made to carry her different experience, her different narrative. So, she accepts the conditions that her name Hamida entails now, the name that has been engraved on her hand, and in the end Rashid is sore and he is guilty, he is squarely cognizant of his transgression, and he is willing to he agrees to Puro returning to her fiance Ramchand. So, Puro is actually accepting Hamida's name and her position, her identity as such, but she is not merely engulfed by Hamida. She chooses to live in the world that Hamida has created for her. With this, I would like to stop today's lecture, and we will meet again for another round of discussions. Thank you.